Hi, everybody. We'll give it a couple seconds here to get everyone in. And while everyone is doing that, I'm going to go ahead and actually share my screen here. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Good to see some friendly faces. And I think I know everybody, but I will introduce myself. I think that's just appropriate. All right. Can I get a thumbs up that y'all can see my screen? All right, I got thumbs up. So hi, everyone. Welcome. This is our first webinar to introduce our new brand of Elephants and Tea called Storytelling Studios. We are delighted to be announcing this to you all and sharing more about it with you. We've been doing this type of work for a few years now, in fact. And so part of today is we're going to highlight some of the awesome partners that have been working with us. But this year we decided to put a name to the brand, if you will. So delighted to be here. We'll get to those folks in a second, but just want to kind of get things started. So our agenda for today, quick introduction from myself, also Lisa as well, who interacts with everybody from the Storytelling Studio side of things. Kayla Fulgenetti, our senior director, is also on too, but you won't interact with Kayla too much except for in the chat today. We'll also go over who is Storytelling Studios, what does Storytelling Studios do. We'll have our panelists introduce themselves from the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society, Stanford Medicine and Health Library, and Walgreens. And then we will open it up to questions at the end. We are covering a couple of different areas that we work in, and we think that that's important since you all can see all the different areas that we interact with, we work with, to give you some ideas of how creative we can be with what we want to do with this important initiative of ours. So our introduction. So again, myself, Nick Galarakis, Executive Director, Lisa Orr, our Brand Director, and I mentioned Kayla Fulgenetti is also on with us today. The reason I just have myself and Lisa on here is we're the ones that do 99% of the Storytelling Studios programs. And I would venture to say Lisa does just about 100% of it once it's actually in progress. She essentially project manages it all, works with everyone on scheduling and things of that nature. Some quick background. And actually, Lisa, if you want to say hello, come off mute and say hi for those that don't know you.
Yeah, hi everybody. Glad you're here to learn more about this. I absolutely love the work that we do within Storytelling Studios. It's so fun to kind of be a little more creative and work with you to help your brand and your mission and your message shine. So thanks for being here to learn more about it.
Awesome. Thanks, Lisa. And for context, for some folks that don't know my background is in content marketing and digital media within business to business before we started Elephants and Tea. So a lot of the programming that we do, I have done previously with large corporations, Fortune 500 companies across the country and in the UK. So a lot of the things that we've done within Elephants and Tea, whether it's on our content side or the Storytelling Studio side, it's all intertwined and there's reasons behind why we do what we do. It's things that have been done before and we feel really strongly on that. So who is Storytelling Studios? Storytelling Studios is the creative arm of Elephants and Tea. We are a nonprofit, so we are not a new brand that is not a nonprofit like we are for the Stephen G. Cancer Foundation. We're all one herd under the same EIN number. So Elephants and Tea is, Stephen G. Cancer Foundation, Storytelling Studio is. We share the same mission across the brands. Our mission is for cancer patient survivors and caregivers to know they are not alone in their experience with cancer. And for those that don't know our tagline, the elephant in the room is cancer, tea is the relief that conversation provides. So what do we do? What do we do as Storytelling Studios? Essentially, it breaks down to these 4 bullets, if you will, but so much more than just these 4 bullets. Crafting engaging content within the cancer community. We use the stories of the survivors that we work with, more so in the young adult population, to create beautiful special editions of Elephants and Tea or integrated programs as well, from a virtual standpoint, et cetera. We collaborate with the various amounts of organizations to effectively convey impactful stories and also customize things to fit the needs of our partners and our sponsors. Some of these examples that are on this screen here from left to right, left was actually our very first special edition that we created with what was called Seagen. They're now owned by Pfizer. And the one on the far right, the survivorship one, was Servier, Hodgkin lymphoma. I'm sorry, Seagen was Hodgkin lymphoma, Servier was AML, ALL. We did cancer disease specific special editions. And then in the middle here, our My Life Matters publication is a custom publication that we have been working on with Tiger Lily Foundation for years now. I believe, Lisa, we just launched our ninth issue, 10th issue. I may have that wrong. But it's awesome. And it's been a beautiful interaction working with Tiger Lily on metastatic cancers and racial disparities within the cancer space. And then our newest issue that just came out, our precision medicine issue, sponsored by Lilly Pharmaceuticals. And I think Matt Farber is on today, who we work with on that. And our hospitals should have just gotten their special editions of this. If not, they're getting it within the next week. So we're super excited about this and covering specific topics, and we're really thrilled by that. I just rattled off some of those here. Again, special editions from a cancer disease state, special editions topic specific, maybe precision medicine, clinical trials, things of that nature. Another area we're looking to cover next year is caregivers too. We also look to do integrated programs, and we'll get into that a little bit more with Walgreens later in this presentation. Double issues. We did our first Elephants and Tea double issue this year with Leukemia Lymphoma Society, as well as custom publications. That kind of falls in line a little bit more with what we did with Teen Cancer America here in the middle, creating a publication magazine for the AYA Global Congress last year that was held in Long Beach, California. And virtual events. We have been hosting the Texas AYA Oncology Conference for the past 3 years now. And we may be doing that again next year, but we have that ability as well too, and creating full page advertisements for some pharmaceutical companies as well. So a little bit of everything, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. It's essentially almost like an agency, if you will, within our own organization. It's kind of probably the best way to do that. So our features for what we do today are highlighted here, and even more so. I couldn't fit everything on the slide that we do with some of these organizations, but we're so delighted to have our awesome panelists on, and we're going to introduce them in a second. On the left, this was the second side of our double issue with Leukemia Lymphoma Society, The Voices of Strength. If you got our September issue, we'll put that in the chat too, so you'll be able to check it out. We do a hospital publication with Stanford, and Deanna is here today. We'll go into that. We do writing workshops leading into a custom publication for the hospital. And then we've been doing some integrated programs with Walgreens. We've done 2 with them on cancer and fertility, and then as well as the Feel More Like You service, focusing on some beautification and body image and things of that nature. So without further ado, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I am going to unspotlight myself. And I am going to ask our panelists to introduce themselves, and I'll call them out so we're not talking over each other. Let's go based on who's going to be going first. So Karen, you're up first. Go by introducing yourself.
Thank you, Nick, and thank you for having us. So I'm Karen DeMiro. I am the Vice President of Education, Support, Integration for the Leukemia and Lymphoma Society. And I oversee all of our patient and professional education from a national end, as well as some of our support programs, including our nutrition education services with our registered dietitians.
So thank you, Karen. Tricia.
Hi, thanks for the opportunity to be here. I'm Tricia Hernandez. I work on Karen's team with our National Patient and Professional Education team members, and I manage our online patient and caregiver community, as well as lead our National Education and Services AYA efforts.
Thank you, Tricia. Deanna.
Good afternoon or good morning, depending on where you are. My name is Deanna Beyer, project manager at Stanford Healthcare for the Health Library, and working in partnership with our Stanford Adolescent Young Adult Cancer Program to support the work that we're doing with Elephants and Tea and really amplifying the voices of our AYAs.
Thank you, Deanna. Lolly.
Hi, everybody. Thanks again for having us here. My name is Lolly Havern. I'm a director of clinical pharmacy strategy for Walgreens. And essentially that means I lead our strategy for clinical products and services as they relate to our oncology patients. I am a pharmacist by training and just really passionate about helping patients on the journey and how a pharmacist can help in their care.
Thank you, Lolly. And last but not least, Rick.
Hi, everyone. Rick Serlin with Walgreens also. Thanks, Nick and Lisa, for having us. And I manage our specialty pharmacy marketing here at Walgreens with a focus on B2B. And that, of course, includes oncology. And so all of our marketing initiatives and programs to help support the great work that we do here at Walgreens, including the efforts that Lolly leads to support our patients.
Awesome. Thank you, Rick. Okay, so let's get into our conversations now. We're going to start off with Tricia and Karen and myself. So I'm just going to spotlight the three of us, just so those that aren't a part of this conversation, you don't have to worry about being on camera just yet. There we go. We have the three of us. All right. And for those in the audience, feel free to drop questions into the Q&A area. We'll take those at the end. We'll make sure that there's plenty of time. This way, if you want to ask questions for myself, Lisa, or anyone else that's on the call, we can do that. So, Tricia and Karen, hello. Wonderful for you all to be here. So, just to kind of set the stage a little bit for everybody else, we do a lot together, Leukemia Lymphoma Society Elephants and Tea, and it's been an honor to do so going on about 2 years, I think it is now. So maybe even probably more than that, actually. Time just melts together, I swear. So we're going to talk about some of the stuff specifically that's tied to the Storytelling Studios, but just kind of want to set the stage for folks that outside of the custom content side of things, we also work together on what's called Pen My Path, which is a beautiful writing workshop that Kayla, Lisa, and Tricia work really closely together in working with survivors as well. Sharing their experiences, there's usually specific topics. I have no doubt I'm missing several key important things with the Pen My Path program, but that has also led to including some of these stories and things that are written from some folks into the stories and the content that we use within some of these special editions or the content that we do together. So it's been a beautiful mix and a beautiful integration with all the different things that we've been doing together. And I can't thank LLS enough for all the support that they've given us over the years. Tricia, is there anything I'm missing with Pen My Path that you'd want to share with folks, or did I hit that?
No, I think you got it. It's expressive writing
Sweet.
program and brings together the expertise of Elephants and Tea and LLS in a way that really supports patients using writing as a coping tool.
Awesome. Thank you. Okay, so let's get into the questions then. So Leukemia Lymphoma Society and Elephants and Tea partner in many ways, as we mentioned, from the Pen My Path workshops, creating custom content, sponsorships. And after this past December, as we mentioned, the first double issue of Elephants and Tea. How important is it for LLS, and what value does it bring to LLS to work with organizations like ours at Elephants and Tea?
So the short answer is very important, right? I mean, that we know. You know, one of the things that we try to do is create an awareness of LLS and all of the resources and the support that we offer. And being able to partner with organizations that are trusted within the various communities really is something that is important for us to do, right? And when it comes to the young adult community, that above all is of extreme importance to us. You know, we want patients to know that not only do we service blood cancer patients, but we service a number of other patients, but that when it comes to the young adults, that we want those blood cancer patients in that community to think of us from the beginning. And I think by partnering with organizations like Elephants and Tea, which actually we started back during COVID when we did the first Gab Fest with you guys. So it goes back even farther. It's just, you know, it adds some credibility then to what we have to offer with this particular population. And I think, you know, Tricia can add on to that because she's been leading a lot of the efforts specifically within the young adults. But again, it is extremely important for us to be partnering with Elephants and Tea.
Yeah, I think we really recognized how important these kind of partnerships are. for organizations like Elephants and Tea that have such integral connections within the AYA community. And in 2022, we actually did a survey of our LLS connected adolescent and young adult survivors and their caregivers. And we're very surprised in the results to find that, yes, they were connected mostly through financial assistance or talking to an information specialist, but they asked for resources that we actually had for them, and they didn't even recognize that we had them. So I think we really started to think strategically, how do we partner in a way to elevate awareness about these resources that already exist for our blood cancer adolescent young adult patients and their families? And how do we get them connected with those? And these kind of partnerships and the types of through the storytelling and through Pen My Path, Healing Through Writing, we've really been able to elevate awareness about our direct AYA resources.
Thank you both. Yeah, it's so important, right, Tricia, to be able to get what you're doing in front of people, right? So whether it's us or another organization, that's the best way to do it. One of the ways to do it. Okay, next question. With the Pen My Path workshops, this is a program that LLS has been doing for some time. What difference has it made in working with Elephants and Tea in these workshops?
Again, I think it really has had a significant impact on expanding our expressive writing workshops at LLS into the AYA space. You all had already been doing Healing Through Writing, expressive writing workshops, generally as one-time workshops. And so you came with a flexibility of saying, a 4-week workshop, okay, we'll give it a go. In the community, in an online space where people don't necessarily talk face-to-face the whole time, sure, we'll give it a go. And I think that really has been an incredibly impactful program for our participants. They have shared their interest in the program with others, which means it's elevated the LLS brand and awareness of LLS as an AYA organization. It's really been a wonderful partnership experience. I love working with Kayla and Lisa on this program. I love seeing what our patients and caregivers get out of this program, both anecdotally and we are collecting data to really look at what is the impact of this program and how healing writing can be for them. So yeah, it's been a wonderful program.
She said it all. That's her. Pen My Path is, Trisha's thing, along with Lisa and Kayla, and I think they just do an unbelievable job. And we did an expressive writing years ago, but we didn't focus on young adults. It was successful, but I think with where we are now, we've stepped it up. Right. And that has a lot to do with not only, Trisha's enthusiasm of wanting to engage more of our patients, but with working with Lisa and Kayla and making sure that this is something that is just, it's received by so many people in such a positive way and makes a big difference.
Thank you both. Next question for you. Blood Cancer Awareness Month was this past September, and every September for that matter. The past 2 years, LLS and Elephants and Tea have partnered creating awareness and content for the AYA community within the quarterly ENT magazines. In 2023, we created a special section of custom content, and in 2024, we created the double issue of Elephants and Tea that brought a whole new level of creativity and engagement in the community. How have these content programs brought value to your brand at LLS?
So I think one of the things is that we want people to know that LLS is not just research. And then what many professionals often say to me at conferences and stuff is, oh yeah, you do great grants. So we're not just research and financial aid, right? We have all of these other programs and resources to offer to people. And when the opportunity presents itself for us to be partnering with someone else, such as Elephants and Tea, who has the attention of a particular population, meaning in this case, the young adults, right? It behooves us then to be able to work with you because people are coming to you for the information. And now by us putting some of these articles and this content into the magazine, which focuses on a number of different topics, right? I mean, last year there was information about clinical trials, about survivorship. This year, you know, we talked about transitions from the oncology care to primary care. We had the voices of some of the young adult advocates that work on our advisory board, you know, and talking about advocacy in general. And we talked about nutrition. This information, these are things we do all the time, but not everybody knows that. And you are amplifying that for us, right? So that really makes a big difference when we're trying to make sure, as what, you know, Tricia alluded to before, that not only do people know who we are, but they do know the services that are available to them. Now, Tricia, you may want to add to that since you work so tirelessly on both of the magazines with the group.
Well, I'll say yes, I did put a lot of work in, but Elephants and Tea has made the process so easy to throw content their way, and then they return it to us in a visually stunning draft. I don't know what kind of magic happens behind the curtain, but that does make life a lot easier. I think, you know, as Karen said, it helps us highlight some very specific AYA supports, resources, and services that we have, but it does it in a newly visual way for us here at LLS. We don't have an LLS magazine, and so it gives us a different kind of way that this can be consumed by AYAs in a visually interesting, quick bite. Yes, brings resources to life. I love that, Lisa. So I think that that's what we really get. And then the other piece that we get out of it is that you really do create this content in a way that very much aligns with our brand guidelines here at LLS. So it looks like LLS. And even though it's a partnership piece of work, it looks like us. And that obviously is important from a brand standpoint as well.
Well said, both of you. Thank you. I think we got time for one, maybe two more here. What feedback have you received about these kinds of collaborations with us?
Nothing less than ultimately positive, right? I will tell you that we have they're not quarterly anymore, they're 3 times a year, national board committee meetings. And the magazine came out just in time for our senior leadership to see copies. And I was asked, and we had a whole change of how we were doing the committee slides. I was asked specifically to include a slide, which I did, of our collaboration with Elephants and Tea, highlighting the magazine and then all that we do. So yeah, it's more than well received.
That's the first time hearing this, so thank you.
I always hold back a little, you know.
I think beyond, you know, obviously we have a lot of pride in that work and that collaboration and what came out of it, but the numbers also say it too. When I asked you for impact numbers and reach numbers, they're great, and that means that someone is taking a look at this visual content, this written content, and saying, oh, I'm going to make a brain connection there, that LLS has this or LLS has that. That's incredibly powerful and important.
Thank you both. All right, let's see if we can squeeze one last question here, and it should be a pretty easy one. If you could share one takeaway from working with Elephants and Tea and the content produced, what would that be?
I think that you're helping us reach a population of cancer patients that we find it's very important to help, right? And I think that we have very much a give and take in our relationship. I mean, you know, we sit on calls with each other and talk about, you know, well, this is what we're going to do. How can we do it? And going back and forth on what works best for both of us. And I think that that's one of the things that I appreciate very much. It's not so much, it's not we say, well, we have to do this, or you say we have to do that. It really is a collaborative relationship with the patients as the most important aspect of all of that.
I agree. I think that organizationally, our missions and values are very aligned, and it's just been such a, despite having as much fun as we all have working together, it is a very professional, and what is produced is very professional and very visually enticing and content rich. And I think what I really appreciate, and I had mentioned this to you in our pre-calls, that you all come with a great amount of flexibility in customization, and this willingness to say, as Karen just mentioned, you don't stick to this, well, this is what we do. Like, oh, let's think of some ideas around that. And you always come with some great ideas around that. And I think that makes whatever the end product is just that much better. And that flexibility and that customization, I think has helped us elevate even more LLS in the AYA space.
Well, thank you both. This was wonderful. I greatly appreciate our partnership, our friendship, truly. So thank you to LLS for being on for this part, Karen and Tricia.
Thank you.
I'll remove the spotlights off the two of you. And if you have any questions for them, feel free to put them in the Q&A. We'll get to them at the end. So thank you again for all those kind words. Let's keep moving since we're about halfway through already. So next up is going to be Deanna with Stanford, and I'm going to add Deanna to the spotlight with me. It's just you and me, Deanna, for this one. And just to kind of set the table for everyone too, we do this custom publication together specifically for your AYA community and the Stanford community, which is just so cool. And I'm excited to talk about this one a lot, just looking at who's also in attendance today. We have a lot of hospital folks in attendance. So I have a feeling that there's going to be some folks with some questions for you potentially here at the end. And we have these writing workshops that lead into a magazine. So we do a topic. Kayla and Lisa work with you on the prompts and things like that, or Healing Through Writing workshops. So it's very cool and integrated in a very different way, but it is specifically for Stanford and your patient and survivor population, which is very cool. So that said, let's get to it. So first question for you, Deanna, can you share a little bit about our process between our two organizations and how we work together to create the custom magazine for your community?
Yeah, thanks for having me here and allowing me to share. I think when we started our collaboration with Elephants and Tea, we kind of took the virtual storytelling workshop format, which was really timely in that we were coming out of the pandemic. And I think with our AYAs, and I'm sure many of you at the other hospitals have seen, some are still in college, some are different places in the nation. So it was really great to have an opportunity to reach more AYAs. And so we worked with the Elephants and Tea team to bring their expertise in developing some prompts for our workshop. Typically, there's 5 prompts. For our first one thing that I think for Stanford, we really wanted to emphasize and focus on that was maybe a little bit different than what you have all done in your writing workshops is allow participants to submit their story in whatever way was best for them. So we opened it up to including artwork, poetry. We can do audio recordings in which we'd include a transcript and a link to their audio story. And we really just wanted to encourage that to lower any barriers, especially for those who may not be ready to tell their story, but are curious about it. And I think one of the nice things about the prompts is we come together, we go through those, and they really just get people thinking about their story, or as they listen to others inside of these virtual workshops, start to think about, oh yeah, I hadn't really thought about my own experience with that. I think one of the issues that we stayed on topic most with would be the one about scars, where we kind of explored emotional and physical scars, and really just allowed our AYAs to just share their story and whatever their experience was. So trying to really just keep our questions a bit neutral, which is really nice. I think your team is fantastic in helping us customize those for our patients, who tend to be RAYs at Stanford Healthcare that fall into kind of support from the program, typically tend to be around like 15 to 29. So on the younger end of that, and they may not necessarily be at a point in their experience where they're 100% comfortable with telling their story or even talking about it. But I think they develop really great relationships with Pam Simon, who manages the SIAC program. And she builds that relationship with them and encourages them to at least attend and check it out. And so we really want to just create a comfortable space for them to do that. And so that's kind of our workshop piece. I think in the beginning, we thought we'd add a timeline to that and say, okay, come back to us. For those of you who are interested in sharing your story, let's have a final draft within like 4 weeks. And we check in with folks, see how they're doing. I'd follow up with them one-on-one. And I think that helps encourage AYAs to submit things or ask any questions if they're unsure if they're ready to share their story. And what we found is that it takes a lot longer than 4 weeks, especially as Pam meets with people daily, and there's new folks coming into the organization. There's interest along the way. And so it kind of probably takes more about 3 or 4 months for us to gather enough content and stories to kind of create a custom magazine. So your team had been really flexible with us in terms of, we don't have everything ready yet, or there's a story we'd really like to wait on. And we just appreciate your support in kind of learning more about us as well. If there's questions that we want to tailor, kind of understanding maybe why we want to do so. I think one of the things we talk about a lot is it's important to kind of ask the uncomfortable, hard questions. Because a lot of AYAs, that's, some of the topics that they really feel connection with. They might feel alone in bringing some of those hard topics up. And I think for us, we also try to keep them slightly neutral, just knowing that we have people who aren't ready yet. They're not coming to this with, yes, I'm ready to share my story. It's, I'm still curious, like, how's this going to work for me? So I appreciate just your team support and patience as we're always changing things up, and understanding that it just it takes a bit longer than just churning out a magazine and just giving people the space to create that.
Agreed. You kind of answered some quick future questions I had for you. So that's great. So thank you. And I was going to say, you kind of alluded to this a little bit, but deciding the theme for the workshops, what goes into that on your end on deciding that?
Yes. So I think one thing, we definitely look back at some of the other Elephants and Tea magazines, and again, look to your team on their expertise and what you've done in the past with certain issues. And then also Pam, who works with the AYAs day to day and sees them in the hospital, has a good idea of what we're seeing in our community and what questions come up from AYAs, or what she sees might be a struggle sometime, or things that they may not talk about. I think we tried once to focus on relationships. I think is really important, just friendships, how things change, after treatment, either people want to shy away from talking about it, so maybe people don't feel as comfortable sharing with their friends who may not relate to the experience. So I think we just try to keep them. We may find topics that come up, but I think when it comes to the magazine itself, we still leave lots of room for anyone to submit any story. So we're not too hard on keeping to just a specific topic, because people are ready to share what they're ready to share.
Agreed. Thank you for that. I'm going to jump ahead on you on one of our questions. And can you share any feedback you've received from community members about their experience in the magazine and its impact on their personal journeys?
Yes, absolutely. So I think, it's been nothing but praise for the magazine, and just I think for those who have participated in sharing their stories, it's been a really valuable experience to them. Many folks didn't know that they were ready to do so, didn't know where to start, but felt just really thankful for the opportunity to share their story and to really get it out there. And I think a lot of the AYAs who have shared are really just there again to support other AYAs who are going through this. I do have a piece from one of our AYAs who shared in the Past magazine, and I'll read that to you. She wrote, "As a wide-eyed freshman just starting my high school career, a cancer diagnosis wasn't exactly on my agenda. When the doctors told me I had non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, I was completely and utterly devastated. My mind was a blur, and I felt as if I were being bombarded with so much information my head was going to explode. I received pamphlet after pamphlet regarding therapy, treatment plans, and just about cancer overall. Among those were papers about the Stanford Adolescent Young Adult Cancer Program, something I didn't even know existed. One of them in particular stood out to me. It was a collection of adolescent young adult cancer stories written by Stanford patients, all put nicely together into a magazine. To that point, it never really occurred to me that there would be other people my age going through the same thing. Of course, I knew theoretically there must have been other cancer patients my age, but all the stories you hear are unfortunately about young children or the elderly, never the teenagers and the young adults. While flipping through the magazine, one story in particular caught my eye. It was about a survivor in her mid-20s who also had lymphoma. She battled through an intensive treatment, and by the end, she wanted to give back to the community that gave her so much. She decided to become a nurse and work in the same oncology unit she was treated in at Stanford. After reading her story, I was inspired. It showed me that just because I had cancer, it didn't mean the world just ended for me. To know that other people went through this treacherous journey and ended up doing something so impactful in the end made me feel less embarrassed about my situation and more empowered." And I think this is something that we hear a lot from the AYAs and also see in our community. I think after treatment, our AYAs may take some time away from the hospital, but at some point really want to be connected with the program and see the value and how much creating a stronger community around this can be. And we've seen our AYAs grow close and form new friendships just through these workshops and the magazine.
Thank you, Deanna. I'm going to end our questions on that amazing quote for the sake of time. But thank you. That quote kind of hits the nail on the head, I think, of why we do what we do with you and Elephants and Tea in general. So thank you so much, Deanna, for sharing all that, for answering these questions today. All right. Last but not least, our friends from Walgreens. So I'm going to put Lolly and Rick up. I just also want to say, as I'm putting the two of them up here, everyone on here, all of our presenters, we have far too much fun together, and I also appreciate that. Okay, let's get right into the questions for our Walgreens friends. First question for you all: why is Walgreens interested in working in the adolescent young adult cancer space?
I can take the first stab, Rick, and then you can color.
All right, yeah, then I'll add.
I mean, ultimately, we are a very large specialty pharmacy provider, right? So we are seeing these patients day in and day out. And I think one of the things that I noticed when I first came into role is a lot of the resources were geared towards older cancer patients. Even the trainings, and when they talk about insurance, it's a lot of Medicare funding. Like, I just didn't find a lot of information around AYAs. And so it was really important for us to not only create training for our pharmacists, but highlight the specific challenges that they had, the working, at a 9 to 5, going through cancer, the fertility, the feeling more like yourself. And so we really identified pretty early on that we needed some help. And Elephants and Tea has just been the most amazing partner to not only give us that insight into some of those specific challenges, but giving us resources to be able to provide for our patients.
Yeah, and just to add on to that, I totally echo what Lolly said, that it's a distinct population within the cancer community with unique challenges. And so what we really want to do from a Walgreens standpoint is advocate for this group and help us to understand and provide better care, better patient-centered care for this population, and really empower the patients to have positive outcomes. And I think partnering with Nick, you and the team has really helped us better understand this audience and the nuances, and to be able to do that.
Great. Thank you both. How have Elephants and Tea been able to assist you in those areas? It sounds like you kind of just answered this question, but anything else you want to add to that?
I mean, I think a perfect example is even our fertility preservation intervention. So when this is kind of a longer story, but when I first came into role, that Matt Farber left some pretty big shoes for me to fill. It was fertility and oncology. And I even remember thinking, like, those are two very different conditions. Like, why are we putting it together? And it wasn't until the work that I started doing with Elephants and Tea that I realized what a big opportunity this was to put the conditions together. And so through the magazine and we understanding the stats out there and how many patients are actually not aware, we were able to then create an intervention in our patient management program where we're now screening every single oncology patient for fertility preservation. So like that to me is just a perfect example of like what impactful that work was.
Yeah, and I would add on to that Elephants and Tea has tremendous reach within the AYA community. And so by partnering, it's really enabled us, and I think this was mentioned by a couple of the others, to not only grow awareness of our brand, but help elevate it. And I think Elephants and Tea's expertise has helped us produce, from a marketing standpoint, materials that despite all of the creative resources we have access to, we would not have been able to develop otherwise, which really helps us amplify our voice and kind of draw that direct connection to providers and patients that we want to support. So I think in those ways, it's really just taken everything we've been able to do, again, looking at it from a marketing lens, to a whole another level to really help these audiences.
I think Lisa said it best. It brings life to our resources. So we have a ton of marketing material around Feel More Like You. It's quite another level to have somebody like Michelle talking about how she felt like a goblin, and then she got to talk to our beauty advisors and then felt beautiful. Like there's no marketing brochure that's going to say that.
Thank you both. Hearing a lot of this for the first time, so it's really like emotional at some time. So thank you for sharing that impact that it has on what you're doing day in and day out with patients and survivors. It's huge. Next question for you. The integrated content programs, both the magazines are above Lolly's head, by the way, that we have partnered with together, Cancer Fertility and the Feel More Like You. Both of these programs were promoted to the Elephants and Tea audience in the form of digital magazines and a digital series. These programs have been used as tools, not just in that way, but for the Walgreens marketing team at in-person events, such as ONS, which is the Oncology Nursing Society, for those that don't know. Can you tell us a little bit about how these magazines have brought value and impact to your team at these events?
I can start if you want, Lolly. So one thing I'll add again from a marketing standpoint is so much of what we produce, especially for the provider audience, such as at ONS, like what you were mentioning, Nick, is clinical in nature. And I think what the marketing we've been able to produce together, which includes the two magazines, is one, it helps us break through the clutter, because after a while, all of the clinical marketing across, the entire industry begins to sound the same. So it really creates a point of differentiation that gets noticed. But I think having these personal stories creates an emotional impact and lends a human element to the marketing that we were lacking before. And I think creates such a nice complement and balance to our clinical materials. So we're not coming across as like a big corporate pharmacy, but really somebody who's out looking, for the best interest of the patient and supporting their care. And like I said, using that human element to kind of tell our story, which if people that work at Walgreens, and Lolly is a perfect example, it's a very committed, passionate group. And I think that kind of brings that alive in the marketing.
And funny you joke about ONS. I literally carry the magazines with me everywhere I go. I was actually at ASRM this past weekend, and I gave it to Serono because they have a cancer fertility preservation program. And I was like, again, it's one thing for me to tell you what we do from a Walgreens perspective. It's quite another to read these stories. And we use them internally at meetings. We use them when we're talking to a brand. It's just an example of what our day-to-day pharmacists are doing in the field.
That's just wonderful. You kind of answered this question, but wanted to make sure if there's anything else you wanted to add, but how important it is to have these personal stories with everything. You've hit on that a bit, and being able to, I think, Lyle, like you said, just boom, wherever you go, like, hey, this is what's up. Is there anything else that you would add to that when it comes to the personal stories and how important they are to showcase what you all do?
I think one other way is training. So Nick, I don't know if you remember when you, Lisa, and I met with the pharmacists.
Yes.
So we met with every oncology pharmacist in the country and we even polled them, like, these are some of the challenges that their AYAs are facing. How comfortable do you feel about talking about sex after cancer? And the results, frankly, were there was an opportunity there. And so we created training. And so I think just that partnership helps us to talk about it from a different lens. I think it's one thing if I just create training on my own and tell them what to say, but to hear stories of patients and what they're going through, I think is a better way of training. People will remember stories way more than they'll remember a CE. So I just think it's more impactful.
Yeah, and I would add too to that, especially with our internal folks that are working alongside of us, reading these stories really serves as an inspiration. So they're not just looking at data and numbers or outcomes or adherence numbers. It's what the actual patients are going through. And again, that's an inspiration to motivate us to try even harder to help these patients. And as far as the patients and even other people within the industry, when they read these stories, it's something that resonates with them and helps them better understand that there is an individual patient story behind each and every script that we fill and each and every patient that walks through our pharmacy doors, and just helps complete the picture of what it is we're trying to do, again, to support these patients.
And I think that sort of goes two ways too. Like, one of the things that I did notice through the Feel More Like You virtual or even the in-person support group was I don't think AYAs realize that the pharmacist could be a resource. And so I think it's helping us kind of change that narrative and just give an additional source. Now, we're not saying like we're going to take over the therapist or anything like that, but there's things that we can help with. Like, if you tell us you have a side effect, we may be able to intervene with your doctor to get you something to help. So I think that conversation has helped on both ends.
Thank you both. You honestly answered most of their questions without even asking them. But just quickly, is there any other takeaway that you would share in working with us, or just in general, these programs or feedback that you've gotten? And then after they answer this, folks, we will get to some questions. So please feel free to ask them. But Lolly and Rick, is there anything else that you would like to add here?
I think Trisha already highlighted just how easy it is working with Elephants and Tea. So I will say, I think Lisa and Khadija were like a match made in heaven when it comes to project tracking. So maybe the second one was a little bit easier, but it really was just so seamless in terms of putting it together that I just can't stress that enough.
Yeah, and I would add that it's truly been a true partnership. These are the calls and the meetings I look forward to the most when I come to work. And I think Nick, you said it best, that we have a lot of fun, but also we get the work done. And I think that enthusiasm and passion that your team brings is amazing. And it's really just the way our teams work together from a collaborative standpoint, really with the common goal. And that's we all want to just help these patients. And I think just our work together brings it all together. And I'm grateful for the time that we have together when we work on these projects.
Thank you both very much for sharing all that. And yes, just thank you. These responses were not staged, folks. I promise you. I didn't know what anyone's going to say today. So I just thank you so much, everybody that shared today. So I'm going to remove everyone's spotlights here, myself included, and we're going to open it up to questions. We have about 7 minutes, but if we have good questions, we can stay on and ask some more. If anyone wants to drop a question in the Q&A, if you want to come off of mute and ask a question, go right ahead. We have a small crowd here, and I know just about everybody that's on here, so I feel confident in no one asking something crazy, but you never know. Also, too, for the panelists, please feel free, if you're comfortable, dropping your email address in the chat in case anyone wants to ask you something afterwards. For the Walgreens team, for example, a couple of people have actually asked about the Feel More Like You program, so I think that would just be wonderful if you're willing to share your information in the chat. But thank you again, panelists. Any questions from our audience here today or comments?
Hi, Nick. I have a question. Well, actually, I was already kind of chatting about it. I'm just so impressed with everything everybody's doing, and it is a dream to work with Nick and Lisa and the whole gang. They are doing such important work, and we are so at the National Bone Marrow Transplant League. We're honored to partner with you as well. I would like to talk to the Walgreens folks about the program. I'd love to do a lunch and learn about it, just to help people feel better about themselves during treatment. So that's something I would be real interested in learning more about afterwards. And of course, I work with Karen and Trish and the gang, and it's just, they're the best. So what a dynamite group here. So very happy to be able to listen in and learn more. Thank you.
Thank you, Peggy. Anybody else?
Nick, I would just share from the hospital standpoint, when we create these magazines, we also open it up to our clinicians and other folks who work with the adolescent and young adults, just to really bring that community together. When we talk about the community, it's just everyone who's in their corner fighting along with them and for them. So we invite family, friends, caregivers, and the clinicians.
Thank you for bringing it up, Deanna, because obviously the caregivers are forgotten about, but the clinicians are especially forgotten about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's something that's really cool with that magazine. It's truly like a family within there for you all. And that's so cool to see they all pitch in from that standpoint. So thank you for bringing that up. Anyone else have a comment or question? I don't think we have anything in the Q&A.
Hey, Nick, it's Abby from Atrium Health Wake Forest Baptist.
Hi, Abby.
I had a quick question about, what are the opportunities for Elephants and Tea to partner with like institutions for patients to tell stories?
For your patients to tell their stories?
Yes.
So first of all, that door is always open in the sense of, if anyone ever wants to write for our quarterly magazines, for submissions for our website, the submissions are always rolling on our website. So if Lisa, if you're actually able to drop a link to that for Abby, or Abby, we can send it afterwards. But right on our website where it says write for us, we have our content calendar, and our content calendar actually just went out recently for 2025. So anyone can submit. We're always taking submissions. That goes without saying for sure.
Okay, I was wondering, I thought, and I may be making this up, so I thought I understood that like there was opportunities for more like if you had a certain like patient event that you had wanted to have like a breakout session of like storytelling for patients and things like that. So just trying to understand a little bit more as we're still, planning our AYA program and what that will look like moving forward for like patient retreats and things like that.
Awesome. Yeah, definitely, Abby. Very happy to talk to you about all those things for sure. So thank you. Misha, I see your hand up. Am I saying your name correctly? Yeah. Go ahead.
Hi. So I'm not sure how I got the invite or why I got the invite, but I'm glad I did. And the reason why I'm saying is that I am a former 16-year-old breast cancer survivor, and definitely part of the community. And I'm always engaging with Lisa and her team. And I just think this was so informative for me as a patient and someone who wants to be an advocate. So thank you for having it. I'm not sure why, but I'm gleeful. I'm also excited because I use Walgreens specialty before my leukemia medication. So I was like, wow, oh my goodness. So I don't know how I can be a help, hindrance. I don't want to be a hindrance, a help or an advocate, or just because I think there's so much misinformation out there, and there's so much daunting information out there. Um, to know that Walgreens, like I said, I use it because of my medication needs. And just know that being part of the Elephants and Tea has been monumental for the program that Lisa has put on with Stanford. And so thank you. I guess I'm rambling, but I just say thank you. And I hope that anybody's considering the program, especially the writing prompts, it's been invaluable. Even if I wind up doodling and not writing words, but it helps me know that I'm being heard, even to myself. So thank you.
Thank you so much, Misha, for sharing that. That was beautiful. Thank you, thank you. And you're never a hindrance, so don't worry about that. And the doodling is part of the fun. So I know we are at our hour mark. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. If anyone does have any questions afterwards, please feel free to contact myself or Lisa, and we're happy to relay those, or anyone else here that put their emails in the chat. This was recorded. I know a bunch of people wanted to watch it, but they had some conflicts, so we'll make this available for folks to check it out. Again, thank you all to our panelists. Thank you to everyone else for being here today. There's so much that we all can do together, or as it sounds, with each other without Elephants and Tea involved. I think that's also the beautiful thing. Another thing why we exist, we want to connect people too. So it's just fantastic, and just grateful for you all being here today. So thank you so much, and enjoy the rest of your week, and hopefully we'll talk soon. And anyone that wants to just learn more about what's possible at Storytelling Studios, please contact us as well too. Happy to talk about that.
Thanks.
Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.